Greetings, everyone. I just wanted to kind of run through this PowerPoint for you, and it's very, very short. I don't mean to take a whole lot of your time, but I'm hoping it'll be something that you can constantly refer back to make your life easier. So this is a very basic overview of how to write formally and all about your narrative, but understand that if you have any questions that are not answered here or you need more clarification, if you use a site called OWL Purdue, if you go to Google and type that in, it'll bring up MLA and it'll show you an example of a sample paper and all kinds of stuff. So it's a great go-to. So I just wanted to leave that resource with you. So the don'ts of formal writing are pretty straightforward. You should not use first or second person pronouns unless it is in a quote or dialogue. So for example, you don't use the term I, me, my, you, we, our, those things. At the college level, that's considered very informal, and most of the time it can result in an automatic 60 on the paper. So you want to avoid those entirely. Some tricks for that is even after you've written your first rough draft or whatever the case may be, you can hold down the control button on your keyboard or the command button if you're using a Mac and hold it down, hit the letter F, and it'll bring up a finder, and you can type in you and I, the different pronouns on that chart. And if it finds it, then take it out. And that's simple. So instead of saying my, I could say something like Jennifer's or hers or something like that. You just drop it and change it. Do not have a 3-point thesis. What do I mean by this? Well, in elementary school, we were all turned to the formal writing, like where we all it's very formulaic, formal writing, and that's very, very boring. It's kind of like you get to the end of that introduction and you say, my favorite types of ice cream are chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry. Well, the first body paragraph is obviously going to be about chocolate. The second one's going to be about vanilla, and the third one's going to be about strawberry. And then you're going to conclude it by repeating the introduction. Why did I read the essay? Like, you didn't give me anything to kind of work towards. So don't use a 3-point thesis. Don't try to set it up in that 5-paragraph formulaic essay. And you may say, well, how do I avoid that? Well, that lesson is more important when you do the research paper that we're going to do, because that's the most formal. But for this narrative, we're not going to focus so much on it. A narrative is storytelling. So you're just telling a story. You don't need to focus on being so formal in the sense that you need to have a thesis. You need to have that. It's not like that. So we'll get to that in a second. Do not use slang, because you can't guarantee that everybody knows what you mean. So if you have a word or a term that means something for you or your friends, it doesn't mean that everybody understands it. So you don't want to use it unless, again, if it's in dialogue, have fun with it. Do not use contractions. Ironically, I said don't use contractions, and don't is a contraction. But, like don't, won't, can't. Again, it's just very informal. Okay, so the do's. Do always write your essays in MLA format. Again, that is the format that you used for your first assignment. So if you just keep that and you keep that header the way it is and the feedback I gave you on that, and if you need help, let me know. But once you get it, you can just keep using that same format over and over again. Do write your essay in third-person pronouns only. So like he, she, they, them, their, it. Those are, again, you can look at the chart, but all those are fair game. Do have an understood beginning, middle, and end. This is a story, for the most part, so you need to have a clear progression, and it's better to have this in a chronological order for this narrative. Do have at least 3 paragraphs in your essay. Again, I'm not worried about a formula. I just want to make sure that we have a beginning, we have a middle, we have an end. Do have an identifiable thesis. In this case, it's going to be like the moral of the story. Are you going to, give me the story and close it out, and that's what I'm looking for. Do follow all the grammar rules. That's very hard to do. I understand that. And it isn't that if you mess up or you have a fragment or whatever that it's an automatic failure. This is more of a, for me, I always teach this class as more of a learning. So don't worry about that, but just try your best to have, the very basics, good spelling. Try to not do fragmentation, like where you have a sentence that isn't really a sentence because it doesn't have a verb, things like that. And do your best on it, and we'll go from there. So finally, for your narrative specifically, these are the things you need to do or consider for that. So you're writing a story that only you can tell. Draw from personal experience. You may want to use your word photo and simply expand upon it that moment to create your narrative. You know, if you did your word photo in that 75 to 100 words, I did that so that it was more focused. So I gave you the example of if I was talking about my wedding and I cannot do that in 75 to 100 words. That would be insane if I'm actually trying to be detailed, which is the purpose of a narrative, to tell those details and make your reader feel like they're there with you. So instead, I could write about the moment when I walked through the church doors. I could do that, but I can't talk about the entire wedding. Now I'm asking you to take that and expand it. So I still, you know, in 2 to 3 pages, I might not can tell you my whole wedding, but I could expand outward from the moment when they came to get me, to go up the stairs, to wait at the door. I could talk about how the women who were waiting to open the door told me that my husband, or soon-to-be husband, said, you know, that they had to wait until a certain measure of the music to let me in because he picked out all the music. I didn't have any say in it. I let him do that. So, because he's a pianist, he's very good. So it was important to him that I have an initial reaction of that music before I walked through the door. So that was really, really nice. I can talk about that. I can talk about the walking down the aisle, what I saw, who I noticed, and what I focused on. The sights, the smells, you know, all that kind of deal could get a lot of detail, a lot of imagery. And then I can walk up to my soon-to-be husband and maybe I end it there. You know, maybe I have the lead up and there's the middle is my travel time and then the end is me actually getting to him. Do it how you want to, but just know that I'd like for you to not do more than 2 to 3 pages. I'm more focused on the detailing, that imagery, that sensory. Can you put me in the moment that you were with this story? That's what I want. If you have any questions, you know I try to answer as quickly as I can, through email especially. So let me know if there's any issues or concerns. Like I said, this is actually one of my favorite essays to read of yours because I think that it's really fun to hear other people's stories. So just kind of have fun with it. I'm trying to limit you a little bit, but other than that, you know, just have some fun and do your best. All right. I look forward to reading them.